It's the midway point in Season 4 of SailGP, and for teams that also have America's Cup campaigns running, it meant a change of gear as they headed from Jeddah to Dubai. Emirates Great Britain, led by Sir Ben Ainslie, were one of those teams who needed to switch from their AC40 monohull back into an F50 foiling cat. And while Dubai was a light weather event, it was also extremely close, going right down to the wire, with all three finalists rounding the final mark together. But for the British, Dubai was another bruising experience. Despite a good showing, they lost their chance of getting to the final after a disqualification in the last fleet race.
GBR, you're disqualified.
Oh, no!
Vote not keeping clear.
Big call.
Now, with the festive season behind us and Abu Dhabi next on the SailGP calendar, Ben Ainslie announced that he'd be handing the wheel to his co-driver in their Cup campaign, Giles Scott. Given that Ben has always been clear about his support for SailGP, it's surprising news. I caught up with Ben ahead of the Abu Dhabi event.
Well, like a lot of these decisions, it ends up being a number of factors that go into it, and it was something that had been on my mind for quite some time. Obviously, with the management focus on both the SailGP team and the America's Cup team, and getting to the point where ultimately something had to give. And also, I think looking forward to SailGP, it's a wonderful circuit league that's grown hugely in the last couple of seasons, and thinking about the future of our team, our Emirates GBR team, I'm getting to the point now, notwithstanding the management requirements, but also, time to move on. And in Giles Scott, we've obviously got a fantastic talent, a huge talent in the sport, and really giving him the opportunity to bed into the league through the second half of this season 4 that we're now in SailGP, with the aim of hitting it really hard in season 5 and continuing on as one of the top teams.
Was it a difficult decision?
It's never easy. I honestly really loved the sailing that I've done with SailGP. It's some of the best I've ever done, if not the best. Purely because you turn up to these events and it's really intense, but the time on the water is just action-packed. There isn't a second wasted, and you're learning a huge amount, and it's the best racing out there. So in that respect, it was a difficult decision, but when you weigh it up with everything else that's going on and other responsibilities, not just to myself and the team, but as a family man as well, then ultimately, like I said, something had to give, and I think this is the right decision for the team, well, for the SailGP team, for the America's Cup team, and ultimately in the end for myself as well. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about the future with Giles in the team, but also with the other teams and other interests that we've got going on.
It's obviously no secret that you didn't have. I know it's different. We're talking about. I'm going to switch a little bit to the America's Cup now, but you didn't have a great time in Villanova and Jeddah. They were both disappointing events. SailGP had been a struggle, but then you did get a couple of back-to-back wins, so that was pretty good. But I just wonder how much and Dubai. Sorry, yes, of course, Dubai was a very disappointing event for you because you didn't get to the final, got disqualified in the final fleet race. I just wonder how much all of that played a part in your decision to step down and maybe concentrate on other things.
Well, I think in a way, all that you've just described sort of highlights where we're at, in that we have a really talented team in SailGP. We've certainly had the potential to really perform well. We made it into the podium race at the end of last season, but it's fair to say, look back at SailGP, plenty of missed opportunities and issues. Some not of our doing, but plenty, which we had to put our hands up and say, we made some big mistakes there, and same with the America's Cup racing. We've got a great squad. Our focus has been elsewhere, but ultimately, push comes to shove, we didn't perform where we wanted to out on the race course. And so, yes, part of this is about working out what are the priorities for the rest of 2024. Clearly, it's a massive year for the America's Cup, for us to get the race boat on the water, on target, and then to rinse every ounce of performance out of the boat, and then clearly perform well on the race course. And as a CEO of the team, that's a responsibility that I don't take lightly. And
how does that change things? Is it still important? Is this sort of a case of reorganising and refocusing in a slightly different direction? And is SailGP still important?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important to say that nobody should look at SailGP as a training ground for the America's Cup. It very much, I believe, stands on its own feet in its relevance in not just the sailing world, but the global sporting world. It has huge potential for the sport, and I think it's really incumbent on all of us who are fans of sailing to make sure that SailGP is the success that it is being and can be. For Giles, I think it is a great opportunity to get out there and get some more race sharpness going. He hasn't had the opportunity to race much at all in the last 3 years, since Auckland, in fact.
Giles is in many ways the obvious choice for all the reasons that you've mentioned, not least of all because he's the guy who's on the other side of the boat, as far as we're aware anyway, in the come the big boat. But I guess there might be some who sit out there and say, well, why not Hannah though? I mean, Hannah is a very decorated and accomplished sailor, and she's already on the boat.
Yeah, look, that's a very valid question, and I think we've seen SailGP as a league push really hard for more diversity in the sport and giving more female athletes the opportunities to get on these boats, and that's grown over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Hannah is absolutely at the forefront of one of these women that has the capability to steer one of these boats in the league into the future. But it was my view that she hasn't had enough time yet to take that on. I think in certain conditions, absolutely fine. But for instance, she hasn't had the opportunity to helm one of these boats in really over 15 knots of breeze. So turn up in Sydney and Auckland, it's blowing 25 knots of wind, and I don't think it's fair to put that expectation on Hannah. But she absolutely can be and should be, I believe, one of, if not the first female to drive and race one of these boats. And I know that's very much her ambition. We support that wholeheartedly. We have supported her, obviously, coming into the team, and continue to support her with that ambition. And I really hope and expect to see that at some point in the future.
What's her plan? What will her season look like then, as far as the SailGP is concerned?
Well, as you said, Hannah's the strategist of the team, and she does a brilliant job at that. I have to say, she's results speak for itself. But just having sailed with her, I got to tell you, she's an amazing talent. Also, as we go through the training for these events, Hannah and Hannah Diamond, who's our other female athlete, they sail in different positions on the boat, at least 1 hour of the training session that we get for these events. So with Hannah, getting her on the helm, with Hannah Diamond, normally she gets on the wing sheet, and that's very much about continuing to develop these skills and opportunities. Hannah Mills also has the role of being the lead, the CEO of our Athena Pathway program, which is a relatively new program that we're hugely excited about, which is giving the opportunities to the youngsters now all the way from the grassroots, looking at getting into the WASPs and boats like that down in Portland, going through the simulator for the AC40, and then getting on through, whether it be the Youth and Women's America's Cup boat or potentially into the SailGP team. So I think that's the first time really that we've had a pathway in the UK that goes all the way through from, if you like, grassroots.
We're just, as we speak now, we're a few days away from the start of the Abu Dhabi SailGP Grand Prix, isn't it? And I noticed there that it looks like that there is a slight change in that there is a day. Am I right in saying that there is a day for women sailors, female sailors?
Yeah, so this is something that, to their credit, the Swiss team instigated in Dubai, which was giving up part of their training day. Again, we don't have that many training days in SailGP, to bring the female athletes onto the boat in different positions, get some expert coaching from Nathan Outridge, and you really get out there and get some more time on the boat with some direct coaching. We thought that was a great initiative. They put it out there to the teams following Dubai who wanted to pick up the mantle and carry it on, and we were straight in there. So yeah, we'll do that in Abu Dhabi.
There isn't that much, the way that SailGP is structured, there's not that much time for anybody to train.
One day, we literally get one day, normally a Friday, might be a Thursday if racing's over Friday, Saturday. Normally it's the Friday and then you race Saturday, Sunday. So it's very tight. There is a simulator that teams have been able to access. And I believe there's another simulator coming online in the not too distant future. But that obviously requires travel and logistics to get the team out to the simulator. And so most teams, including ourselves, really are just, we're defined to that one training day.
Finally, just with a slightly sort of broader picture, what does the year look like for you now? Because there's quite a big gap between, well, I'd say gap, but between now and the Cup itself, there's no official racing.
No, so good point. So that I'd expect in our team it's no different. People are starting to get their eye into what does racing look like for this next Cup. So, for our team, like a lot of the other teams, we're going to get into some two-boat action and to really up our match racing skills. We talked about earlier that difference between the fleet and match racing, but really get that direct focus on the match racing and the AC40s. And the other big area focus for me is, like I said again earlier, getting our race boat on the water, on target, on time, and then that program ultimately, relatively limited time wise, of getting the boat up to speed. So rinsing every ounce of performance out of the boat. What modifications, if any, do we need to make as we look forward to the competition itself? So it's a really, really intense period now. All the way through to the Cup, as always is the case with the Cup, but this is really where the heat starts coming on all of the teams.